Welcome to the Waiting List podcast. Tell us a story.
It's like many things you start building from scratch.
And then I'm like, wait, I really do like watches because
You've seen so many watches that makes you excited.
I think I really do like watches.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to see if you are a watch enthusiast. Right, welcome to the Waiting List podcast. It's kind of a big event for us because it's the first time everybody that's involved in this project is actually doing the podcast. So you should hear everybody. So that includes Alex, Long, Chester. Thank you very much for coming today. And our special guest today is Louis Yeung.
Thank you.
So I've known Louis for quite a while now, from the very first Shanghai Watch Festival. I even remember, where we were sitting, everything. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to personally thank you for always being supportive in everything I do. And I'm knowing full well there's actually not much to gain as well. So, these people are few and far between in the watch industry. You're one of them. So from Calvin and me, thank you very much.
My pleasure. So I'd like to thank Louis because I met Louis through Daniel. And he's been very generous to us, and he's always looked after us with any events that we've done. So I'd like to say thank you as well, Louis.
My pleasure.
Right, so for those that don't know, Louis is the editor-in-chief. Is that the right title?
Right.
For Ming Watches, which is 喺香港係名錶.
Right, yes.
Yeah, okay, which is a watch magazine that you can get pretty much everywhere, right?
Yes, maybe. Yeah, right.
Right. Anyway, 我哋開始啦。
好，
開始採訪你啦。
好。
Right. 咁你其實入咗行幾耐啊? How long have you been in the watch industry?
I joined the watch distributor in 2007, which means 13 years ago.
Wow.
Not long, actually.
Very
Most of the
experienced.
people in the industry, they work for the watches industry for very, very long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get into it?
Well, at that time, I think I can't remember. I joined. My first job was in an airline company, and then I came back to Hong Kong to join Mercedes-Benz, the agents of Mercedes-Benz. And then after 5 years, I left the company and joined a very local manufacturing company for just like 10 months. And then I left again and joined the it's the car magazine from US. It's called Car and Driver.
I know that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. And at that time, I was working like as a marketing person and also business development. And then after 3 years, I left the company and established my own company, like something consultancy. And then couldn't find any business. And then I have to look for a job. And then I sent resume to some companies, and then finally, the watch distributor got me. And then I was, my first title was regional marketing manager at that time, and I took care Hublot and Greubel Forsey, 2 brands, because we had like 5 or 6 brands at that time, and then I was taking care Hublot and Greubel Forsey at that time as regional marketing manager, because we had the market like mainland China, and we had the Philippines, we have Thailand, and Australia, and Hong Kong, Macau at that time.
That's like
so there's a regional title at the time.
Wow, so that's quite a high position.
Well, actually, the activities in that markets at that time were not so frequent, so strong. But Hong Kong was quite strong, and we also took care of the China market.
So your first job in the watch industry was as this regional person,
right.
And then before you had done like cars, you'd done like airline stuff.
Yes.
So the longest you've been in the industry is the watch industry, because you spent 13 years in the watch industry.
Yes.
Is it okay? So you didn't realize you liked watches, but then as soon as you went in the industry, did you fall in love with watches?
Not at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, but slowly, when I first started to look into independent brands, I started to love watches. Well, to be very frank, I think for the big names, it's not so attractive to me. Yeah, right.
Okay. Right. So you weren't into watches before, but then you got into the watch industry and then got into, I think that's actually probably opposite to like how I would have thought. Because I think like, you know, people might be interested in watches and think, okay, I'm going to go into the watch industry.
Right.
And then they go into the watch industry and think, oh, fuck, you know, it's like this. And then I feel like turned off from the watches. But actually you were the opposite.
Right.
So I was curious because you mentioned you dealt with Hublot and Greubel Forsey. They're both very different kind of design languages and different perspectives.
Yes.
So did you understand that very early on, considering you didn't understand much about watches?
Well, at that time when I worked for these two brands, it's like a product to me. So it's not that difficult because I used to work for Mercedes and we had like A-class, S-class, which are actually very different group of customers. And frankly, we hate... Oh, sorry.
You can say it. No, you go
to be honest, we hate those car owners for the A-class. That's true, because for the S-class, for the high-end customers, they are very polite, they are very well educated, and some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
But for those who drive like A-class, C-class, they have a lot of complaints, unreasonable complaints many times. So
yeah, it's because I think people that buy A-class, they want to show off, but they don't have enough money to show off.
Right? Exactly what I wanted to
Daniel,
say.
that sounds like me.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to watches. Am I right in saying you didn't collect watches then before you went into the watch industry?
Even
Only
not
after?
now.
Oh, even not now. Okay.
I think, is it because you see so many watches that...
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I see so many watches, and if you know more, you don't want to buy. But actually, I bought a lot of watches for my wife.
Why?
Like, not a lot, 18 watches.
Why?
18 is not
18,
that's
not
a lot.
but
Not a lot, that's a lot.
I didn't. I only bought.
Why would you want to do that, Lewis? It's just spending money with no real benefit, kind of.
Thanks for his wife, that's sweet.
Well,
I wouldn't do it,
happy
but I
wife,
think it's
happy
sweet.
life.
Yeah, there's
Exactly.
cheaper
Yeah,
things.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
There's cheaper
Happy
things.
wife, happy life. I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
until you get married, right?
So you've obviously been based in Hong Kong for most of your life,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest difference between, let's say, Hong Kong collectors, China collectors,
Mhm.
or wherever you say Australia and all these kind of places that you were distributing to? What's
Yeah.
the difference in collectors, would you say?
Well, I think if you compare Hong Kong or China customers, I would say, actually collectors from China, they are more open-minded.
Thank you.
Well, in Hong Kong, sometimes you're quite tired because people are all, I'm so sorry to say that, but people are all looking at PP, Rolex, AP, Richard Mille, these kind of big names. Sometimes quite bored.
講廣東話，講廣東話，
講
好悶啊！佢哋
好悶啊，係。
Yeah,
真係好悶。
你係 based in Hong Kong 啦，Chester，你覺得點咧？其實
係好悶嘅，係好多 Rolex 同埋 PP 有噶。
好多。
有啲
咁你而家
好多。
戴緊啲咩啊？
Well, yeah, I'm the fucker that wears the Rolex, right? So, I mean, legally sue me.
其實我唔係話 I speak in Cantonese， 我唔係話呢啲 brand 唔好，其實呢啲 brand 係好好嘅 brand 嚟，只不過即係當你做喺呢個 industry 入邊 ，when you are in the industry, you will find it very boring. But not saying that they are not good brands, they are very good brands.
Okay, so I'm going to go deep here because I'm curious to hear what are the brands that you think are very good as independent watchmakers.
Independent.
Yeah, independents.
I would classify independent as something really small. But if you say independent, actually Patek is independent, AP is independent, and Richard Mille is independent.
so it's RS.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is independent.
Okay,
Yes.
so let me rephrase that then. So
Mm.
brands, let's say FP Jean, Debatune, H Moser, does that fall into independent?
Yes.
So anything within 1,500 pieces.
right.
Okay.
都唔係咁樣定
How I mean,
難，好難。
I'm curious. How would you? Yeah, because AP
Difficult.
is independent as well. So how would you get to
Because
that
not,
phase?
in my mind, 我覺得即係 not affiliated with like Richemont, LVMH, Kering, Swatch Group, right? And they like this company only does this brand, so they don't have 2 brands or 3 brands. That's an independent for me. Is that wrong? That's
I
wrong.
can't get you.
即係我話咧，如果個品牌係同 Richemont 一齊嘅，或者係 part of Richemont，或者 part
Right.
of Swatch、part of Kering、part of the other ones。
講簡單啲就係上邊冇個大集，
唔
冇
係大集團，
喺度
或者係
hold 住
嗰間公司佢本身只係一間公司啫，佢唔係2間公司。咁我會話呢個係 independent。
可以，其實我哋個 classification 都係咁樣，即係如果你唔係 under 一個大 group 嘅，我哋就當你 independent。
Okay, so AP is not really under a group.
No,
So
it's independent.
So you still classify as an
其
independent.
實你話精工 Seiko，
Yeah,
Seiko
Seiko's with Epson though, isn't it?
Seiko is a conglomerate. Epson has a stake, not under Epson.
it's hard one, right?
Yeah, it's hard one.
It's grey
Hard one.
area.
But
though.
actually,
Very grey.
But
Yeah.
actually, I think when we're talking about independent, we're more like we're talking about the independent.
Small indies.
The
Yes, small indies.
watchmakers where the watchmaker actually leads the brand and they're doing something
Right.
daring, something special,
Right.
unconventional. Not doesn't necessarily have to be special.
Yes, at least you don't have like 1,000 SKUs. Yeah.
其實好多間嘅。如果你去巴塞
So
咧
FPJ is
好多
pushing it.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
FP has already got
20%
Chanel
stake. Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
it's
mean,
an
disregarding
20%.
that they're pushing in 900 and pushing close to 1,000.
Let Chester shit on FP
Well-
until after he gets it.
咁好難講啊，
I
因
already
為
have it. I'll still shit on it.
I still think like AP we said independent, they churn out like 60,000. So I don't put the volume of watches down to independence.
40,000.
40,000, right? Patek we say is independent.
Right.
Yeah, how many watches they Rolex? Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't answer to anybody. 但係佢哋即係一年佢做幾多隻錶啊？ I don't think the number is the determining factor. Yeah, I don't think
Right.
it's the determining factor. It's
Okay, so going back to my first question, I apologize. For small independents,
Mhm.
so let's say sub 1,000, which kind of brands excites you?
I think in that category, I really like FP Show. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that?
Personally,
Because you
I think-
mentioned, because the movements in rose gold, you actually mentioned to us before that it's actually not as reliable. So, but you still...
Well, I think he put a lot of efforts in the design and also the technical aspects. He's doing quite well in this aspect. I like his watches design technically or in appearance. I think Abijon is very nice.
And then how about Kari Vutilanian?
Well,
Because you have an affiliation with him, so...
yes, for me, it would be biased because I like him so much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when you say FPJ,
Yeah.
I was a little bit taken by it. I'm like, I thought you would say Kari. Disregarding your affiliation, I thought you would say Kari.
To me, Kari is at this moment, he's only using one base movement.
Well, the Perso 260?
No. I mean his in-house
Oh, so
in-house
it's
movement,
sorry,
the
apologise.
28.
Okay, yeah.
He used his base movement to develop other complications like the retrograde date. Yeah, no. To be honest, different. It's a different movement. But I think in terms of technical invention, it's not that. How to say? It's not exciting.
Innovative. It's
Not
not innovative, maybe.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
not that
因為佢
exciting.
caliber 唔夠多係咪咁意思？
Right.
Yeah, so he's only got one caliber and he's churning the same stuff out.
Yes.
But more on the aesthetic side.
Yes, and then when you see the movement, actually, they look really similar. Yeah, I have to say.
Now the big one.
Right, and to be honest, Kari is a very nice guy, better than FP.
Yeah, I've heard.
I have to say it very in a low voice. I like Kari very much. He's a very honest guy, humble guy, gentle, and he is fair to his partners, like his agents. Yeah, so I like him so much.
Right. So I was going to go back to your first job, which was like regional manager, director of
Manager.
these brands. What were you actually doing? Because I know做緊咩咧？
Well, my jobs like PR,
Okay.
communicating with the media, all kind of marketing jobs like doing events, planning, advertising, indoor, outdoor, print ad, something like that, and also how to say it, opening boutiques is also my job.
Okay.
Well, actually, the first one in China was handled by me in
Where?
Plaza 66.
Oh, that's Shanghai.
That boutique in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Building a boutique in China. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you don't have the guanxi,
Yeah,
it's
and
going to be a struggle.
guanxi is one problem. The other
Yeah.
problem is the attitude of the workers.
Yeah.
You can imagine 12 years ago,
I think
they're not so...
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I think this is like the cultural communication thing, right?
Right.
Like the way I like 即係我當時去上海嘅時候, I even told them this, you know, you don't understand, and so you get frustrated and you think, okay, I beat them or I shout at them and I get the result done, right? But I'm not entirely sure. I think it's more me not understanding that culture and not being able to communicate effectively and thinking that I'm higher or educated, so this is the right way. Actually, the way that works is the right way. And you have to pull down yourself and try and...
I agree.
Yeah.
Still have to shout at them. Trust me.
No, I'm not saying you don't have to shout, but just because you're educated doesn't mean you don't shout at people, right?
Yeah, you just
yeah,
have to
we
shout
get people
louder.
in the office, right? And we basically give you a hard time too. And if anything, sometimes it's worse because you really want to shout at them and you can't shout at them. You have to do a shit sandwich and say something good in the middle. And it's just even like, like it really taxes your brain. Like it's just different. That's what I'm saying. My point is it's different. Yeah, it's not better or worse. It's just different. Yeah. So what kind of world was that? Because you didn't have the media online. 即係 online 仲未發展啦。And you really actually relying on ADs. The distribution network was very, very important, right, to the success of the brand. So how is it different now? You know, can I just like a comparison?
Well,
do they work differently?
It's very different nowadays because many brands, they build their own boutiques. But at that time, in my time, in 2007, 2008, we relied very much on ADs. Like Carson, like Elegant.
King Fok?
No, sorry.
Masterpiece, King Fok Masterpiece?
King Fok?
King Fok, no.
No,
okay. we didn't work with King Fok. Ying Wang, yes, but not the strong partner.
So how much do they put down then?
Zhou Dai Fok.
How much do they put down when they open a boutique? Or is it just wholly theirs?
You mean AD? You mean AD?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because we have to consider what kind of space they will give us, first of all. For example, like a window display or even a counter inside the shop. We will see the positioning that we can get before we decide whether we go with the retailer or not.
That's one thing I've actually wanted to ask you. If the brand was inside the shop compared to outside on the window, which one's actually more expensive?
It depends. Well, actually, usually we will take both, not only one. For example, we will take both the window display as well as the counter inside. Yeah, not only the window or only the counter. It doesn't work. We will take both.
So when did brand boutiques start appearing? When brands started to say, we're going to do this themselves. And what was the factor in that? 點解係咁樣當時?
You mean why they build boutique? 點解佢哋開 boutique?
點解做自己個品牌嘅 boutique 咯? Like, let's say this, why? Yeah.
好簡單，因為你唔想啲 AD 賺錢， 你想自己賺埋 AD 嗰份。
Okay.
係啊。
咁when did you make that decision? Because you need to rely on the AD. You need help from the AD too.
Yes.
When do you make that decision to say, you know what, fuck you ADs. Yeah, I'm going to open my brand boutique.
Well,
how do you gauge that brand equity?
From 2008, many brands, they started to have their own boutique, but through partnership with retailers. For example, I will open a boutique with Prince or with Elegant. Just for example.
Okay.
We do the renovation, we do the brand image things, but they will do the operations.
Okay.
At that time. But then slowly, like 2010, 2012, they start to own their own boutiques,
Okay.
for the brands. They start to own their boutiques. For example, Swatch Group,
Mm.
they have a team for retail business.
So if my understanding's right, at the beginning, the dealers, the ADs were quite powerful. They could say, okay, we're going to give you this space at the window and this counter here.
Right.
And as the brand got stronger and stronger, because as an AD, I think I don't really want to open a brand boutique with you. I feel like you're forcing me to do that. But
Right.
then again, I can still sell watches and I can still be part of that business, right? But my margin is probably going to be less after expenditure because it's just dedicated to this brand. And then you force them to do that. And then you know how you're like, look, just completely fuck off. Yeah, like, 我想賺晒. Is that how it is?
Right. 簡單啲講,
Yeah, so I'm saying the power is with the brand.
simply say yes. It depends on 邊個個口大啲, who is stronger. For example, like, sorry.
No. The thing is, the advantage of going through not boutique but authorized dealers for the discount. So if I was a consumer, let's say I want to buy an IWC, my perspective is I want to go to an AD to get the discount. Because if I went to boutique, I'm not going to get anything.
Right.
But there's also bundling. You can bundle a bunch of different brands, and then there's limited editions, right? Like unique timepiece at the AP and so on. But I want to know what are the benefits for the brand working with the AD other than customer data. They have existing customer base. You don't have to train the staff.
Right.
What else? What are the benefits though?
We have sell in and sell out for the ADs. You can guarantee the business because once the AD they take up the stock, they pay to you already.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
kind of
B2B
cash flow.
B2B straight away to
Yes.
B2B model, right?
Yes.
Not to B2C.
Yes.
But now you go to B2C, the profit margin is, like you
Bigger.
said,
Yes.
So
yes.
now we're talking about profit margin.
Right.
How much are brands selling that watch for to the distributor? To the retailer?
You're allowed to
It's
say
very sensitive. Huh?
I don't think he's going to tell us.
Very sensitive. I can give you an example.
Yeah.
At that time, like an AD for some brands, I'm not mentioning names,
Yeah,
but
don't say
for some brands, they could offer you 40% off at the AD.
No, I've heard better.
Even better,
We've
right?
heard 90% off.
Are you talking
No,
about
yes,
ice?
That's stock clearance. That's another story. Because you have depreciation, something like that. But normally at that time you can get like 40%
So
off.
what you're saying is I just want to make it very clear to the listeners so they understand is you're selling it to a AD at 40% off.
No.
Yeah, that's not what you meant, right?
Customers.
The end customers still got 40% off.
Yes.
Right.
So you can imagine how much discount the AD could get at that time. And then because the
and they still made money,
distributor-
right?
Yes, of
After
course.
40% off.
Because they have
still
to pay the rents, they
Yeah,
have to pay the
exactly.
staff, they have to pay everything. So they have a kind of like certain amount of margin. Yeah. But then the distributor still need to get money from deal.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the cost of a watch. That's why I don't want to buy a watch
Oh
now.
God.
I mean, okay, so
You
no,
you understand why now?
No, I kind of understand this because I think with watches, I think Daniel and I had a conversation. Roughly, it costs about 10 to 15% of like what's the selling price is the cost of actually making the watch.
But what I'll say is as well, 10 to 15%, but after it goes past a certain price, let's say a watch goes to 200, it's not 10%. The manufacturer for a watch, right, there's a limit to how expensive it can be. And then on top of that is the profit margin. Again, those 200,000 or whatever K watches, what part of that is their marketing cost is high. And what is marketing? Marketing is trying to communicate with the end consumer so they finally buy. So the investment you have to put in for that kind of buyer that spends that much is obviously higher. Plus you're trying to make it minimum less pieces, right? Nobody wants to pay that much and have something which is everywhere. So again, to have that exclusivity, you pay, right? Or am I wrong?
Right.
Oh, I am right. Okay.
而且你唔係做到好多隻，其實你個成本又高咗啦。
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we have a formula in the industry to calculate how to price a watch.
Are you allowed to share with us?
No.
咁你講嚟做咩啊？
If you get,
You just tell us.
I would like to say, if you get me drunk, maybe next time I will tell
Okay,
you.
done.
Okay,
Right.
即刻啦，我落去買酒啊
I quickly go down and get some whiskies.
Yeah.
！Whisky? That's
But
out
it's
of a budget.
interesting.
We get beer.
But if you know the story behind, I think you won't collect watches anymore.
Well, I've known about the pricing of watches for a long time.
Yeah.
But I was telling Long Long yesterday, like, yeah, that's the manufacturer cost.
Mm-hmm.
But the value of the watch, right, is different.
Yes.
The market price of a watch, yeah, is done by how much person is willing to pay for it, right?
Yes.
If he thinks it's 40,000, it's 40,000, right? It's irrelevant how much it costs.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like artwork, to be fair. A canvas with some paint, you can't, how can you justify $10 million US for a piece of art?
Right.
So I don't necessarily think it's, the cost of making the item determines the cost of how much the worth is worth.
Right. I think this rule could only apply to those real watch brands. Right. For some other brands like, no, I cannot say the names, but or you will see, especially in 2010, because of the watch industry, it's really strong at that time, very strong. Many people, they just make a new brand or buy the old names, and then they participate in the watch industry. But what they make are rubbish. So that kind of brands, they are going to die.
Right. So the company that you were working for, though, I can say is Swiss Prestige. They were in charge of like a lot of, but I think a lot of people don't know that that company is owned by JCB, right?
It was, but not now.
Okay, so it was. And so you were distributing a load of Swiss watch brands that he was distributing, really.
Yes.
And he made a lot of money out. And a lot of people obviously just hear the marketing. He sold Blancpain for 60 mil and it's a great story. But actually, he had his hand in many different pies. And that was one of the pies. Because I know he's involved in other stuff that made a crap ton of money as well, right?
Because when I heard the story as well, you only sold it for 60 mils and you're happy about it. Nah, there's something more back there.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the story is JCB is a very good friend of my ex-boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at that time, he took up Blancpain, and he talked to my ex-boss, and then they established a new company in Hong Kong called Swiss Prestige, and they were dealing Blancpain at that time, not only in Hong Kong but in Southeast Asia, like Thailand, like Singapore, for all other Southeast Asian countries. And at that time, at the beginning, because it's already 30-something years ago, I don't know everything in details, but they started with Blancpain and they distributed watches. So that made a lot of money. And then they invest in Oris. They were the shareholder in Oris as well. And now my ex-boss is still the shareholder of Oris, but JCB sold his shares long time ago.
Because I think you were distributing, you had Tag Heuer.
No, not Tag Heuer.
Okay.
And
Oris.
Ulysse Nardin.
Ulysse Nardin. You still had Greubel Forsey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have Quorum?
Yes.
Yeah,
Quorum. Right. They had a lot of brands.
Yeah.
For those I handled in my years in Swiss Prestige, we had like Frederick Constant.
Yeah.
Hublot, Quorum, Oris, Greubel Forsey, and afterwards like the HYT, Eberhard, and
do you have Tissot? Do you have Tissot or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, not that kind of brands.
Actually, you just mentioned a name there, Frederick Constant, right?
Yes. You've got one, haven't you?
No.
You do, don't you?
No, I don't. They're a small brand.
He does, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. They're a small brand, but actually, what I must say, they've done actually very well for the designs for some of them because they look way more expensive than what they actually are.
That's why you've got one.
No, I haven't got one. I should get one though, shouldn't I?
Don't do it. No.
But I wanted to talk about these pieces, right?
Right.
Now we have like 5011, 15202, obviously the
16500 Daytona.
Yeah. Right.
They all like carry high premiums on the grey market, right? Or on the secondary market.
Right.
Did you have that kind of scenario back when you started?
No.
Yeah, so what happened? Why did that?
Daytona was the only one that had the premium at that time, but not the other models, not even PP.
Do you think that those premiums that the watches are going for now is also a knock-on effect from the fact that the brands went boutique only?
I think the problem is the brand is controlling the supply.
Yes.
That makes the price.
Oh, I thought the
Oh.
production was so hard they couldn't make so many watches.
Impossible.
My friend, because my friend Jonathan, I mentioned him in the previous podcast when I was at FP Jean, he told me that when they say it's limited or it's very hard to make, it doesn't exist. It's like they can make as many watches as they want.
Yes. Actually, yes. Actually, they could do just like printing the newspaper. When you open the machine, they'll switch on your machine. They will print like 20,000 copies. They could not stop
It's like
because it's rolling.
It's
just
like the
a watch.
U.S. printing money. They can't stop.
Well, that's an exaggeration. No,
But what we're talking about is in the 1980s, a lot of the watches became CNC. There's like automation, right?
Right.
So this is why there's a charm for vintage watches, vintage Patek, because that stuff was actually hand-drawn, no
Right.
CAD-CAM,
Right.
plus handmade,
Right.
right? So
Right.
quite different. You know, there's cases,
Right.
therefore limited amount of cases you can make handmade. Like I'm talking about Hagman and,
Right.
you know, for Patek and stuff
Right.
like that, right?
Yes.
And
because-
also now that you listen to people say that the watchmaker painstakingly use how many hours to finish the watch, and you're just thinking it's only like a matter of hours or a matter of days. Well, it's not that hard then.
Well, sometimes it's all about marketing.
So back then it was just
Yeah,
the
it is.
Daytona that was hot, like was going for higher than.
Right.
Retail.
Only Daytona.
So the
not other
116520, right? Steel bezel,
Yeah.
black dial, right?
Yeah.
Right,
That's the
right,
one,
right.
yeah.
But one thing I want to also ask you, because you're involved in distribution, so I think I might be wrong or right, I'm not sure about this, is so you go to Basel World, yeah, and you're an AD, you'd put in an order and
Mhm.
you'd get your order and then it would
Yes.
get delivered to you, right?
Yes.
But then there was a lot of grey dealing as well, right?
Right.
So you go to a brand, you weren't an AD, and you'd also get stock, right?
Oh, this is very different.
And
I
then
know
you'd
this.
distribute it out in many different channels, not under AD. Because let's be honest, when you go to Hong Kong, right, the consumer doesn't think that's an AD, that's an AD. You know, they just think that's a watch that sells watches, right? So they were shifting a lot on the grey market deliberately anyway, right?
Well, honestly, at the Basel World, they
Yeah.
won't do it. They won't supply to the grey market.
Okay.
But afterwards, yes. When they go back to the office, they will do so.
Yeah, so
But
you'd
not-
make the meeting there, give your business card out, and then
Well-
expect a phone call afterwards.
No, if you are not the AD, they won't make appointment with you.
Okay.
Yeah, they in this aspect they are quite honest.
I'm
That's
assuming,
dishonest.
no, I'm assuming it's the ADs that go to the grey market. Is that right?
Sorry,
It's the ADs that go to the grey market.
Well, actually, they have two sources. Yeah, I will be killed after.
Okay,
the-
don't say it
the-
then.
the-
All right, no, we need
No,
you
no,
to share some
I would.
information.
Yeah, actually, there are two sources. One is from other AD overseas, like in Singapore, you can get the watches and sell it in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
That's the major source for the grey markets.
So why is that? I mean, is it because the supply in Hong Kong is so much greater, or demand? Sorry,
No,
the
I
demand
would
is
the
say-
problem is we are tax free.
Yeah.
We don't have VAT. That's the major concern.
There's another thing. It's like the Singapore dude who's an AD knows that he can shift it onto Hong Kong anyway. So he's going to have a more of order so that basically he has the right to buy
Mm.
and the others don't. So he's got the right. He's okay. I'll order, and he's just a person that's top of in the sequence, right?
Yeah.
And sorry to break in. I think there's another thing to do with tax issues. So the order actually never arrived in Singapore.
Mhm.
If they can slingshot it with a sales contract
Mhm.
that happened outside of Singapore, and they're using it on top with an offshore company, basically tax free.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, we can do so. But of course, the other source of the grey market is from the brand directly.
Yeah, it's directly.
Yeah, of
So-
course. Yeah.
It's good to clear that up.
And it's also happened in Swiss, right? With a Swiss
Especially
bank
at
account.
that time when the European market was bad, there are a lot of grey markets as well.
We're giving a lot of insider information on this podcast.
You know what I want to know? With bags and shoes, they have big brands, LV, so on, Gucci, right? They have like 水货, which is basically they take it from the factory.
Right.
Is there such a thing with watches?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
basically grey market.
He's saying
No,
it goes
but-
straight from the brand.
Yeah, but But those are with
Oh.
serial numbers. 水货, it's like no serial number can be traced. The
Just-
people working in the factory just take it out.
Ah.
And then they just...
No. In watch industry,
that's
no.
that's like
the-
illegal.
yeah,
stuff,
that's
isn't
not straight.
No.
It's like before they or just after they leave the production line.
Yeah.
Like the company employer just sneak them out. That's not that's actually not
That's
legal.
theft.
Yeah.
That's theft.
No. Green markets is legal, but this kind of thing is illegal. So it's different. Yeah, they won't do the illegal things.
Yeah, it tells a lot about
走
one's
走水
character.
货 you should go to 落马洲. Yeah, you stand at the border and look at how people 走水货.
Right.
So you've obviously worked in the industry in lots of different levels: print media, the some elements of digital media.
Right.
You've worked for the brand,
Yeah.
distribution, the whole kind of chain, really. Which part do you enjoy the most?
Well, a lot of people ask me the same question, but it's really difficult to answer because when you work for a brand, you will see things very deeply.
Mm.
But if you are in the media industry, you know a lot of things. You see a lot of brands. For example, when I was working for the brand, I only visited Hublot and Greubel Forsey, the manufacturer. But as a media, I visited a lot of other brands' manufacturer. It's kind of a eye-opening experience for me.
Do they clean up the factory when you go as a PR marketing? They do, right?
Yes, of course.
I'm pretty
Because-
sure there's no dead body there.
I won't mention the name, but at that time when I visited one manufacturer in La Chaux-de-Fonds, yes.
There's only 2 there.
Not many. And we found some movements from other suppliers. And when I visited another manufacturer, I saw some dials of other brands. So
So you're seeing lots of incest. Swiss watch brand incest.
yes, that's what I mean. A lot of outsourcing. And those brands are already doing good jobs because they outsource in Switzerland.
Yeah, so hang on. He's raised a point that needs addressing there. He deliberately did it.
Some brands
Like, I
outsource.
want to say something.
So,
Yeah, I do.
Some
what do
brands-
you mean by they were doing a good job because they were outsourcing in Switzerland?
Yes.
What are you trying to say?
Some
Because
that
I want
outsourcing
to
from
say-
China, yeah.
Some brands are outsourcing in China.
Yeah. I can underline that because I've been to the factories.
唔係，其實唔係大秘密嚟嘅。其實真係唔係秘密嚟嘅，因為what we are talking about is, for example, like 100% Swiss made，佢哋有個 requirement 噶嘛。But you source the material from a Swiss company, but then the Swiss company get the product from China.
It's free to go anywhere. So you've got the middle
Exactly.
person to take the
Yes.
flight.
Is it 51% is the cost of the
Yes.
the cost of making the watch, and the rest could be, let's say, handmade in China or something, or handmade in India?
But the cost of the watch, right, can be fuddled. Yeah. Just because it, I mean, let's say it doesn't cost, you just put it on the form, man. It's like anything in the Western world.
And
It's all papers,
and,
you just-
and,
it's
and it's like a
different.
very famous manufacturer quote by one of the biggest brand in the world, you know. Design in where and manufacture in where.
Okay.
We can flip to the back of most of our phone and we'll find that.
But you're
Yeah.
right, though. I actually not bothered about it. Because if you can guarantee the quality, right, and it makes my watch cheaper, I don't believe in this in-house crap anymore anyway.
Exactly.
So I just want to see quality.
Right.
And if it makes a reliable watch, then great. You know, I think, like you said, everybody knows, but the Swiss watch industry wants to pretend like the consumer doesn't know, but we actually know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can tell you we don't actually care, right?
Yeah, actually, that's the main point, because what you could see a lot of things made in China nowadays. It's the only thing that is the major concern is the quality control, but not the where they are made from. Actually, it's the quality control. So if you control the quality in a good way, I think it doesn't matter at all.
The iPhone,
Yeah.
great branding,
Right.
top branded product,
Right.
made in China, right?
Although it's not reliable.
Well, yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, too much
Most of
porn.
the time it's okay. That has nothing to do with using an iPhone.
Because he's probably downloading
No.
viruses or something.
No, no,
and whatever.
The way he answered that with so much conviction, he basically knows from experience.
Watch them and
Okay, so the watch world has changed considerably in distribution,
Right.
also marketing. How do you see it further changing? What do you think needs to happen in your eyes positively? And also, is that even in line with what you actually think will happen? So what will you hope to happen and what will you...
Difficult. Well, I think I would foresee some brands close down because of the economy all over the world, not only in Hong Kong. And I would see it as a good thing because you will clear up the market. You will see some of the brands, they disappear, but in a good way because you clear up the market.
I'd like to ask you then, so which brand do you think is like overlooked, like very underrated, that do great quality pieces, price is very reasonable, and just one of those that aren't celebrated enough?
All his clients for the magazine.
Wow. Very difficult.
The one that comes to mind, I'm not going to, feed your mind, but I say Grand Seiko.
Oh, you are feeding his mind.
So I mean,
Yeah, you're
okay,
feeding
kind
his
of
mind.
slightly now. I'll take that back. I mean, but that's one brand I feel that's very underrated. I think because they don't have the marketing clout as the Swiss do.
I think I have to say, because I visited the manufacturer in Japan for Seiko and Grand Seiko. I have to say, I think they are the top 3 for those I have visited.
in manufacturing size or also quality wise? Yeah,
Both in terms of
right?
manufacture and quality.
Okay, so who's number 1 then?
Number 1. Actually, no number 1 in my mind. Well, Greubel Forsey is good. The manufacture of Greubel Forsey.
Number 2?
Is really good. Number 2, I would say I really enjoyed the visit in the manufacture of Daniel Roth, which is now under Bulgari. I was so amazed by the watchmakers there. Yeah.
That's good. Good to hear something non-generic.
Yeah.
So what made you transfer to the print side, the media side?
Because I couldn't get a job.
Oh, okay.
No, kidding.
Right.
Well, at that time, I started to look into independent brands by myself and want to establish my own company to deal with independent brands. And I was introduced by Stephen Forsey to Gromfeld. Yeah, because at that time I left Swiss Prestige and Stephen asked me what you're going to do, and I said maybe I would take up some independent brands and establish my own company. And then he said, okay, you go to Bart, you go to find Bart Gromfeld. He's a very good friend of mine, and I will introduce you to him. And then I flew to Holland and met them in the manufacture, in the atelier, and we discussed, and I started with the new brand Gromfeld in Hong Kong as an agent.
Right.
But at that time, I started slowly. I had Gromfeld and also Sapaneva, 2 brands. And then one day, my friend, he was the chief editor in Ming Watch, and he told me, "Hey, come on, your 2 brands, you could not earn a living because the 2 brands are so small and not famous at all. You could not sell a single watch maybe in 1 year." And I said, "Yes, but I have to start anyway. Otherwise, I could not progress." And then he said, "Okay, you join the magazine, start to write some watches, and then you earn a living, and then you can do whatever you want." And then I was like, okay, maybe it's a good opportunity to earn a penny, and then I spend a penny
on your wife's watch.
And then started to work.
That's a very good friend.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of love about this industry.
Yeah.
Some of the people are just amazing.
Yeah, at that time it was.
Yeah. So pessimistic. I'm such an optimist.
Yep. And so I started to work for the watch magazine, and then after so many years, I don't want to leave because I grew up with, and I know a lot of friends from the industry, which I treasure a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
not only in Hong Kong, maybe from other brands,
Yeah.
and also from other media.
I don't want to like change the tone of the podcast, but I think Louis has one of those wonderful characters which I think a lot of brands can feel very comfortable with working with you. So it's a privilege to be working with you, actually.
Thank you.
Okay. What's the future for the independents for you? Is there a future for all these independents to coexist?
Not easy, but I would believe they would be stronger in Hong Kong one day. I don't know, maybe in China also, but it would take longer in China because China is so big. But I think they will be better in Hong Kong because Hong Kong, we really have a lot of watch collectors. And they, at the moment, they are only looking at big brands. But one day they will feel bored. They will finally try to find something more interesting. And then they will look into independence.
That's actually something that I find kind of odd because Hong Kong, over the years, since actually the early or mid 90s when I come in and out of Hong Kong, most of the time, Hong Kong is known for a place that is riding on the trends. 係咪乜嘢出名咩就攞嚟炒？
係嘅。
Yeah, but over the years we still, regarding watch brand, maybe because they look at it as more like an investment, more and more people do so, and they never get away from like Patek and Rolex.
I agree.
It's weird because I've seen so many trends come in and out from Hong Kong.
I think, I mean, you can say your version, but my version is actually, I'm going to piss like the Hong Kongers off here.
Go for it.
The population isn't that big for a start, right? 7 million, not that much compared to like, I mean, you've got like 30 million in Shanghai alone, right?
Right.
But you do have some very, very knowledgeable collectors, but that potential ratio compared to the amount of people that actually buy watches, because a lot of people buy watches here, but the knowledge is very superficial, and the reason why they buy is superficial, right? Which means that they can't get away from the top brands. And the way that Hong Kongers see money, the more problem is you mentioned the investment side, right? Yeah. Because here in Hong Kong, if you buy a watch and you lose money, then there's so many people around you that basically say like 傻仔, like you're dumb. Why'd you do that? Well, actually, because I actually like the watch. But there's so much peer pressure for you to buy the right piece that makes money that you can't not get away from Rolex and Patek because they're the safer options.
I kind of want to challenge that perspective a little though, because I think it's because, let's say, watches have that connotation about going up in price. That's what brings new people to the game, because they're thinking, okay, I can buy a watch, enjoy it, sell it, and let's say not lose money, but even get the same amount of value back.
Well, I think it's a different angle because for many years that didn't exist and people were still buying watches.
Well, no, actually, no. Well, okay, back in 2000, so this is 2004. This is when I was working at my dad's takeaway. I had a driver who was wearing a Rolex. I think I told you the story that his father unfortunately passed away. He used that money to buy a Rolex. And the thing he told me, this is actually a Caucasian individual, he said to me, the reason why I bought this Rolex because it can go up in price. 2 years later, he told me he sold the watch, made a bit of money, and he upgraded it.
And what I'm saying is that, yes, in Western countries, again, because they're astute at buying, but what Louis said at the beginning with open-minded Chinese is they don't look at that. They actually buy what they like.
Yeah, and also in Hong Kong, most of it is going to deal with the difference between income and how affordable housing prices is.
Agree.
And so because, well, I can spend millions in the down payment for a house, or maybe I can spend 200K on a watch and hopes for it to go up in value, and unfortunately that will be your entry Rolex or Patek. Yeah.
But actually, Louis, I want to ask you, because you've worked in the car industry as well. Cars outsell watches, I believe, if I'm correct. Like I think Mercedes make around somewhere in the region of like 7 million cars or something. It's quite a lot of cars from Mercedes one alone. Now, cars depreciate like anything. So how does that affect people's buying perspective when it comes to cars and watches?
It's a very interesting question because we always say, for example, in Hong Kong, if you collecting cars, how many cars you can keep?
Well, someone we know can collect up to 50.
Yeah, he's got like a factory or something.
But it's very exceptional. But
most of them that you can buy a car, but the thing is they can't even afford a parking space. The parking space itself is way more expensive than a car.
Exactly.
So why do people buy a car then? And you don't need a car in Hong Kong.
Well, to be honest, I don't think it's like comparing apples with apples though. A car industry is car industry and watch industry is watch industry. At the very least, right, you might need a car. You never need a watch.
Even till now, you might need a car.
Yeah. Right. Plus, you've got like the taxi industry that to actually travel around. So cars do need a place in society, right? Yeah.
But for watches, you can keep how many?
Exactly.
How many watches you can keep? 20?
Oh, we know people
30?
that have 20, 30.
No, people more than that. With one safe, they can go up to 200 if they want to.
Do you see a particular type of person that drives a particular type of car with this particular brand of watch? Like for example, in Singapore, we have jokes about people who drive Lamborghini. They usually wear Richard Mille. So is there like if a Mercedes person will drive, will wear like
in England, you'd say
Rolex?
BMW Breitling, or BMW IWC,
something along those lines. Yeah, I agree.
So is there a pattern in Hong Kong?
I didn't see this kind of pattern.
I'll chime in
honestly.
after Louis.
Yeah, go on then. Chime in now.
Yeah, you can be driving a Bugatti in Hong Kong. You still be wearing a fucking Rolex.
Right.
Hong Kongers, step up.
Anyway, let's move on anyway, because we're coming to the end of this interview. But you're a little bit older than us. Not much older, a little bit.
Much older.
No, a little bit.
Much.
Have you ever missed opportunities in life?
Yes, I did.
Expand.
Are you talking about girls?
No.
I hope my wife is not listening.
But you kept a few notebooks of names?
Well, missed opportunities in life, and what advice would you give to the younger generation on that?
Which we dearly need now.
Seize the chance. Yeah, because, actually, I always think if you make a decision, your whole life change. But it may not be good for you. For example, 我講廣東話 in Cantonese。如果你選擇咗做一樣嘢，你日後嘅路好唔同，你遇上嘅人就會好唔同。呢個就係緣分。
So basically, when you make a decision, the people you meet from that path and the opportunities that doors that open will also be different.
Exactly. If you mentioned about my missed opportunity, right? And actually, my first job was a cadet pilot. Yeah, I was training in Australia at that time, and then I came back because of my father, and he got cancer, and I gave up my job. That's my missed opportunity in my whole life. But if I took up the job as a pilot, I won't meet you guys. Right?
But your wife might have a lot more watches.
你諗嘢咁現實㗎，真係。
Maybe my wife would not be my wife. Yeah, because you have so many pretty girls on the plane. Who knows?
小心啲，小心啲，你講嘢。
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is that life is what you make of it and how you see it. So you see it as like, okay, you could have taken that example and said, you know what, I missed that opportunity. It's the one regret in my life. But actually you said that was a missed opportunity. But from that, I met so many amazing people.
Yeah, because many people, when they know that I was a cadet pilot at that time, and then I gave up my job, many people will say, you so regret something like that. And then I say, I never regret. Because of my family, because of my friends, I meet a lot of people afterwards, and I got my wife, of course. I have to speak it louder. Yeah, so life could be very different.
Yeah, your wife's very beautiful.
No.
Okay. But talking on that point, I get that a lot as well, because a lot of, especially in Hong Kong, they go like, oh, you know, you don't do dentistry anymore. It's such a great job, you know. And I think, hang on a minute. Don't you think I don't know what kind of job it is? Because I did it.
Right.
So I know it better than you do.
Right.
And their main point is, oh, it makes a lot of money. Yeah. Why did you give that money up? That's the reason. That's what they're saying, right? So I always say, 咁你做小姐都好賺啊. Right? Is that a good job? Right? But my point is,
well, if you like STDs,
for me, life is more about more than just money. And I value the journey and value the relationships. But that's me. It's not everybody. And I totally respect if you don't think like that. Yeah.
No, I agree as well.
Yeah, good. Right. So I think that concludes the interview.
Good.
Right. But we go straight on to the quick fire.
Ah, yes.
Okay. Favorite brand?
Favorite watch brand.
Yeah.
Philip Dufour.
Oh.
Touché.
Damn.
Me too. That's me as well.
I thought you liked Credor.
I do like Credor.
Cradle is really nice.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Lewis.
Yes. It's a good brand.
Lung Lung's really into Icelink. Yeah.
If you used to get the IG2, would you get it in platinum or rose gold?
I would take the right gold. Yeah. Well, the
Platinum. Okay, understood.
I think you want the Icelink in platinum, right?
Icelink.
Yeah. No.
It's a
Yeah,
nice
okay.
watch.
Right. Favorite local dish in Hong Kong?
I like dim sum.
Okay. Any particular dish? Which dim sum?
鹹水角.
Oh, you really like that?
Yes.
Oh, really?
等陣先 Louis 你祖籍邊度？
三水，廣東。好近喎，真係。
That's his favorite. My brother's favorite dish. I've always thought, what's so good about that? Because you bite in it, there's loads of air. There's not enough meat in it.
唔係，但係 if you keep chewing, there's a little bit of sweetness from the pastry itself, and then
Yes.
there's a little bit of meat.
No.
And it's
still
really
for me.
difficult to make it nice.
Okay. Person you respect the most in the watch industry?
Philip Dufour as well.
Why? What is it
Very
about him?
nice guy, very humble guy with his status in the watch industry, but he's always very humble. And what he always think about is the development of the whole watch industry, not himself.
所以
That I respect a lot.
幾偉大咁樣。
係，即係佢唔係淨係諗自己，佢係諗成個 brand，唔係成個 industry 嘅 development。
Okay. You've already told us lots of dirty secrets in the watch industry. Can you tell us another one?
Well, actually, I mentioned it already in the podcast that we in other questions. Actually, some of the watches you buy are actually made in China.
Okay. Right.
Not about good or bad, but
Yeah.
the origin.
But it's just like an iPhone. Design in Swiss and assembled in China.
One thing you couldn't live without.
Wow. My cats. Sorry, my wife. Sorry.
No. Like that doesn't include your wife. I'm assuming you can't live without your wife. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm helping you out there.
Okay, thank you.
Right. If you could change one thing about the Swiss watch industry, what would it be? With a click of your fingers, like Thanos.
Wow, it's difficult. One thing that maybe 80% of the watch companies
What? You change them or you tell them to disappear?
to kick them out.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Shut them down.
8%.
80.
Oh, 80.
So 20%
Okay.
left.
Yeah.
80.
He's even more savage than Thanos.
Yeah. He only went to 50, didn't he?
Thanos is nice all of a sudden.
Right. Most insane collection you've seen from a collector.
It's not in Hong Kong. He's from Taiwan.
Okay.
And he got a lot of independence.
Is it Long Long's brother?
Roger Smith, Philip Dufour,
Old collector?
Roman Gautier, a lot of big names.
Okay, you mentioned Roman Gautier because he's he's working with Philippe Dufour in some things, is that right?
Yes, in the past, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he worked in his workshop.
Yeah, his pieces are incredible as well.
Yes. Well, actually, I have to say, he is an engineer. He's not a watchmaker.
But his watch is being carried by Oriental, right? Is it?
Oriental. Yes, because he has a new agent in Hong Kong, Swiss Prestige.
I saw Well, we saw his watches, the Fusee chains.
Logical one, is it?
Yeah,
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
No.
I like the HMS,
no,
not the logical one.
As an engineering piece, it's not bad. The concept, but the finishing and whatnot, I'm not gonna pay the money for that.
Well, okay, Chester. Right.
Well,
last
I'm
one.
sorry.
Last question. Is it the end of Baselworld?
I hope it is not.
You're a romantic.
I hope it is not, because I tell you what, because I have been to Basel for 13 years.
Yeah.
And I just missed once. And the life in Basel is quite a good memory for us. For example, like first time when I went to Basel, I worked for the watch distributor. And then afterwards, I went there for my own brands. I worked there as a journalist. And we had a lot of human contacts in Baselworld, like with the brands, with the journalists, with the other journalists. It's a very good time in Basel.
Quite intimate relationships.
Yeah. It's kind of human relationship, human contacts in Baselworld, rather than the watches.
Well, I'm very happy that the first Baselworld I went to, you were there. So that's a good memory. So I remember seeing you there. And
only Basel that you went to.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
and that's it for Basel.
What are you trying to say? It's my fault.
Well, no, it's good memories.
Well, at that time, Basel is actually a very interesting place. We had a place called Palace. Palace is like a temporary tent with a lot of small independent watch brands there. They only got one showcase, one table, 2 chairs. That's it. And from there, the brands develop, evolve from there. It's very interesting to see these kind of brands develop or disappear. And it's a very interesting progress to see those brands. But if you don't have Baselworld, where can you find them? In the digital world, in IG, in Facebook, yes, you still can. You can still
different.
Get them, but no interaction.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah,
but no interaction with the human being, with the watchmaker, with the brand owners.
Right. Well, on that note, we conclude this podcast.
Yep.
Thank you very much for accepting to do it and for being so honest.
Yeah.
It was great to talk to you.
I hope I can still survive afterwards.
Yeah, well, I hope I can as well.
Thank you very much for your time, Louis. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah, welcome.
And for people that listen to this and enjoyed it, please remember to follow and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Take care.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Waiting List podcast. Hit the subscribe button and the next episode will come straight to your phone as soon as it's ready. Whilst I'm here, please remember to leave a nice review and follow us on Instagram at the Waiting List podcast.